Got a couple stand-up dates to remind you guys about. Every Tuesday night this month of November, we will be over at the Block in the Rio Rancho Bernalillo area. Show starts at 8, ends at 9:30. It's been an amazing venue so far. Kick-ass shows. Come out and see it. All of them are hosted by my boy, AJ De Leon. Now let's get into the podcast. It's good to see you.
Hey, bud. Good to see you too, man. Everything going well?
Dude, things are great. Like I said beforehand, great set last night.
Thanks, buddy.
That joke you came up with, about, I don't want to spoil it, but the Tony Hawk one.
Yeah. A lot of fun, dude. Shout out to fucking Jake Otero for helping me with that, man. I mean, it was just, kind of right place, right time deal. But it was a lot of fun. I liked it.
It was cool. It is cool having you back. And it's coming for everybody. So.
Oh, dude, I'm happy to be here, man.
And it's great to finally have you in the studio.
Oh, dude, so. Yeah, this is exactly what I thought it'd be. 100%. Just fucking, no pussy has ever been in here. I don't think women are allowed in this room. That's the craziest thing, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, no girls in Fort Kick-Ass.
Dude. Fort Kick-Ass, dude.
Sorry.
Dude, if a girl comes in here and she's either going to get really dry or she's going to get too wet, and you're not going to want to fuck that girl because she's too... Yeah, that's just not the type you want to be fucking, right? She comes in here, sees Donald Trump on the wall, giant American flag, and then there's like horror movie shit, and she's like, take me now. I'm like, we don't need to do this.
So I had you're very nice people, by the way. Sister Baby, you're very good people. But there's this duo group I had in here. These two girls, and they're like early 20s, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And so like I'm setting up the cameras and all that stuff, and I had the TV. The TV was like swiveled this way, so it was covering the picture.
Hilarious.
But I don't like doing that when I shoot a podcast because it cuts into my frame.
Right.
So I move it, and it reveals the fucking Trump picture, and their faces just drop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not a Trump guy. That's a pretty badass picture, huh?
Dude, it's you reveal a picture of Trump and people think it's like you it's almost like, sorry, I had to get a new frame for this. You put up it's Hitler and you're like,
oh, that's better.
Yeah, someone's like, what the fuck?
Like more acceptable.
Yeah, it's so weird, man.
It's obviously it's identity politics and bullshit like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, because I know, especially like the military background, I know that I look like a guy that should be voting for Trump, and I'm going to because the other option is nowhere near as palatable.
Right.
But it's like when I start criticizing Trump to people, either like on this or just in private conversation, they either look at me like I'm stupid and like, you don't know what you're talking about, or it's like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. And
that second one's a little scarier.
It's I miss the days where you can be like, who you voting for? Kamala. Who you voting for? Trump. Like, all right, well, may the best man win. You know, now, and it's like, dude. So I was just doing shows with Trey.
Keep going. I'm gonna fix the window real quick.
No, yeah. So I was doing shows with Trey Crowder all week, and he's a very liberal guy. Like that's like what he markets himself as a liberal redneck, and he's great, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's been doing me favors for a long time, and I'm really happy that that we're friends and stuff like that. But his crowds are so fucking liberal that it's like after the show there's always one in any run of shows I do with them that are like, I didn't like you, but I like Trey. I was like, all right, cool, fucking whatever. But this dude was like, so last night of shows, this dude came up. He had a sticker that was like, MAGA is a violent cult or something like that, which is like a fucking crazy sticker just to have, and then he gave me this other sticker that was like, it was pretty much the thing of the sticker was like to stop misinformation or stop whatever. And I was like, you also have a sticker that you're handing out
that says they're a violent cult.
Yeah, that says they're a violent cult. So it's like, what are you doing here, dude? You know what I mean?
And I would say too, like, it's okay. So it's a very human issue to project, right? The insecurities that you have and the problems you have on other people. Say, no, that's their issue. And is that not what the Democratic Party does on a regular basis? Because one of the things, I'll say this, one of the things they will always have on the Republicans is their fucking message discipline. All of them are on the same notes. They're on the same talking points. They're on all of that. And the way that they can just, I know it's very like generic to say now, but like how they just swapped out Biden for Kamala. Like the whole coup thing.
Yeah, it's like,
you guys just fall right back in line with your new leader. Yeah. Is that not the definition of a cult?
It's crazy. But what's crazier to me is, have you seen those videos of like local local liberal news outlets or whatever, like the local CBS channel or the local, whatever channel. And it's them saying the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like starts with one and then goes to like multiple. And they're all saying the exact same. I'm like, well, that's fucking nuts. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, we live in a simulation. I guarantee it.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, they are the original sponsor of this podcast, and I could not be happier to continue to be working with these guys. I get it. It's New Mexico. Everyone loves red, green, both. But this genuinely is my favorite brand of chili here in the state of New Mexico, and I love being able to partner up with these guys. They are absolutely phenomenal. Zane and the rest of the team at Chop Chili do an amazing job running that company, and they make an absolutely phenomenal product. And right now, they are running a very special promotional on their Instagram. Go check them out on Instagram. Go give them a follow. And as they post pictures with the hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge, if you can guess where in New Mexico that picture was taken, you can win not only free red or green chili, but also a free custom t-shirt directly from the company themselves. Again, go check them out on Instagram, give them a follow, check out their hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge. Win yourself some free chili, win yourself some free shirts. They are also available in Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, and a ton of other grocery stores in the state of New Mexico, as well as El Paso, and they are expanding out to West Texas. Again, thank you so much to Zane and the rest of his amazing team over at Chop Chili. Back to the episode. Well, and then my whole thing too is like I've had this conversation with a couple of my buddies that are like super like hard like Trump supporters. Yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong with the Republican Party right now? Aside from Trump's just terrible campaign he's running right now. Because I think he's running a very poor campaign.
I think he's running it like, I got this in the bag. And then, in 2016, he was running it like,
I need to win. Yeah.
But now he's running it like, I fucking got this, which is a mistake to have, right?
Well, you shouldn't be neck and neck with Kamala Harris.
No, that's the nobody should be. She sucks. She is, and Trump's not a whole lot better, but I saw the debate with Tulsi Gabbard a couple years ago where she's like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like saying like, Kamala fucking stopped dudes from getting out of prison because they were free labor for the state of California.
Yeah.
And she blocked, these dudes from getting parole. And then she locked up thousands of dudes for selling and using marijuana. And then they were like, hey, have you ever used marijuana? And she's like, no comment. And I'm like, bitch, what you ruined a lot of people's lives. And a lot of these people are people of color too. And then it's like, and you're like, dude, what? And then she's just like joking about it. One thing I didn't like, I saw that, and I'm very like, I like to think I'm a patriot, and I'm very by the Constitution, right, and I'm very like, so I don't think you should ever discriminate somebody for, color, race, religion, anything like that, right? This is America, and at one of her rallies the other day, this lady just yelled out, "Jesus is Lord," and she goes, "Honey, you're at the wrong rally."
Oh, okay, so is that? Because when I was at the show last night, this thing came across my Instagram where it said Kamala Harris mocks Christianity at a rally.
Yeah, this lady just yells out. She goes, "Honey, I think you're at the wrong rally. You're supposed to be down the street at the smaller one."
Attended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally.
Yeah. And I was like, first of all,
well, the cheering behind it, that's scary.
That's nuts. Yeah. Like the thing about it is I'm like, dude, first of all, you're as a president, you're being rude to an American citizen who is just, stating their religious beliefs, right? Like imagine if that person was like, Allah is Lord or whatever, right?
Oh, you know exactly what you would say.
She'd be like, that's right.
You know exactly what she would say.
Or something like that.
And not for nothing. Now Trump, obviously, I don't know what his relationship is with Christ. I don't think anybody does except for him.
He toes that line real well.
But he does. He totes Christianity in a positive way.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. He has the same exact issue that Democrats have with the undeniable just devotion to Israel. So if... And they don't know how to... It's talking about toe the line. They don't know how to toe the line between, like, I'm bought and paid by Israel, but my constituents love the Palestinians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if someone yelled, you know, Allah is Lord or
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar, if they yelled that without going boom,
Yeah.
you know, I think she would say, oh, you are completely correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Yeah, like praise be to God. You know what I mean? Yeah. And but it's funny that she shamed an American citizen for verbalizing her religious beliefs.
Yep.
That's our first fucking amendment. Both of our first amendments, freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And now she's like, oh yeah, not here.
Yeah.
Not, you know. Like if I was running, I'd have been like, yes, good for you, lady.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah, good for you and using your rights.
It's an easy thing to answer and respond to.
It's so easy.
It's so easy. And I don't know, man, like it's horrible to see, but it's not exactly surprising when it's the same party that's saying stuff like what's it called, that the government has I'm trying to get as close as possible what she and Tim Walz have both said. It's like the government has a responsibility to mitigate misinformation.
Yeah.
Your freedom of
information.
freedom of expression.
Yeah.
Your freedom of speech is a privilege, and you have that taken away from you if you're spreading misinformation on the internet.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Because that's the same shit that we were doing during the fucking Revolutionary War when someone was like, hey, we should get away from Great Britain. And they're like, you can't say that. Well, right? This is the country of, hey, I'm allowed to say whatever the fuck I want. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing that I don't like either, where the counter argument to that's like, well, because, I mean, now, granted, you can't believe a word that Joe Biden says because he doesn't know what he's saying, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But even he, like a couple weeks ago, he was giving a speech and he was like, well, yeah, back, like, the Second Amendment was never supposed to be absolute. Back then, they had muskets and cannons. You couldn't buy a cannon. It's like, okay, first of all, it's a very silly argument to make.
Yeah.
Second of all, that kind of feeds in the same argument as like, yeah, well, what's the point of having an assault rifle? You can't fight back against the government.
Yeah.
We were having this conversation on the podcast last week, and I was like, yeah, well, I know a few rice farmers in Vietnam during the 60s that would really disagree with that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of before. They have 2 locations right here in Albuquerque and a 3rd in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed in the description of this episode below. All 3 locations offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to give me. They can be found at all 3 of the locations. Again, big thank you to all the people over at HDR. Back to the episode.
People underestimate, dude, we won this country with guerrilla warfare. Mm-hmm. Like, we were going up against gentleman warfare with guerrilla tactics, and we were crushing them.
And we almost lost this country to the South because of guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, dude, guerrilla warfare is so underrated. Dude, that's how we lost Vietnam. That's how, a lot of these wars, a lot of these coups and shit like that. Dude, when you stop playing by the rules of war, it's easy to win one.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's the reason why, you're not allowed to use shotguns in war, because we were fucking dudes up in World War I with them.
Shotguns in World War I and World War II and flamethrowers.
Yeah. It's like, and they're like, guys, you can't have a shotgun during war. And you're like, this is a war. What are you talking about? You just shot mustard gas at my friend. He's blind now. He can't taste anything, dude. So if I want to come to your trench with a goddamn trench broom, I'm gonna. If this 16-year-old from fucking Louisiana wants to sweep this bitch out with buckshot, he's gonna do it.
Which is exactly what started happening. And that's what...
Do you mind if we use the same spitter?
Oh, yeah. Go right ahead. So, and I don't even think we touched on this when we did the podcast last time, because you said you were a patriot, and I believe that. I mean, you used to be in the Navy.
Sure.
What was your job in the Navy?
I was a police officer.
Police officer?
Yeah, I was an MP.
MA?
MA, yeah.
MA, right, yeah.
I always tell people MA, and they're like, well, I'm like, it's an MP, right, so I just switched it to MP.
What was the decision-making process getting out of the Navy?
I just, you know what? I always knew I was never going to be like a career guy. Like, I didn't do a whole lot in the military. Like, that's why I don't really talk about it a lot, because there's really nothing to talk about.
Hey, me too. Hey, National Guard.
Yeah, dude. So, like, I don't talk about it a lot. Someone would be like, oh, did you serve? Like, yeah, I did, or whatever. Or, I'll say, like, barely. But, like, I loved the military. I didn't have one disciplinary action. I always made rank. I got out as an E5 like after 4 or 5 years, like from E1 to E5 in that amount of time is, in my opinion, pretty good.
Yeah.
I always got along with my command. I always got along with my subordinates and my superiors and officers, and it was cool. But at the same time, I was like, this isn't helping me, and I'm not helping the Navy by just staying in. You know what I mean? So I was like, I
know some people in the Pentagon that would disagree.
Yeah, don't show this to my fucking old recruiter. She'd be like, dude, what's up? We need you. But Marcus Luttrell said something very, very cool one time. He was like, this was like his thing, why he joined the military. And it's crazy. I'm comparing myself to Marcus Luttrell now. But he said, before this, this country has you have a lot of rights and freedoms here. Before you take advantage of all those rights and freedoms, you need to give something back, right? And just joining the military was my way of being like, cool, this is my civic duty. Like, I'm an able-bodied man. At the time it was like, I joined during the time of like, when I joined, we were still in Afghanistan and stuff like that, but not as like heavy. And after I joined, we started to downscale.
What year was that when you joined?
2017.
Oh, that's right, when I joined.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, right. So, yeah, we joined during, like, in 2017, they were still sending dudes to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But in 2018 and 2019, they started downgrading. Mm-hmm. And then in 2020, COVID happened, and that fucked everything up in the military. So, like, I joined, and I was like, man, I'm not doing a whole lot. I'm not really contributing a whole lot. I'm just going to, I did my service. I did what it is, and, and I got out. And then, I'm happy I joined. And if we ever went to war again with somebody, I would join again in a heartbeat.
Sure about that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's the thing, dude, is like, you don't fight for the country. You fight for your friends. You fight for the dudes with you.
The reason why I just question that, because I've been thinking about that a lot myself, obviously, because of like things are going on right now.
Yeah, it's very scary right now to be like one of those dudes that's like, I join again. You know what I mean? Because you're like, fuck, put your money where your mouth is in 2 years. You know what I mean?
I'm also still in the IRR, so they can still pull my number and say, hey, bud.
Oh, I'm still in the IRR too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I get out next year, like fully get out, honorable discharge, all that, I'll be 28. Yeah, I'll be 28.
Right.
That's at the tail end of who they're starting to draft out if the draft happens again.
Yeah.
But, like, I just think about it now, and I look at the current conflicts that are happening. We've got one in Ukraine. We've got the Israel-Palestine issue going on.
Yeah.
We potentially have one going in Taiwan. And I look at all of that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that if these falter, or if, like, a treaty isn't made, I'm not convinced that America
won't step in somewhere.
Well, degrades.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think we lose as a country.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, there's a greater issue with, like, well, what happens if Putin gets too powerful and BRICS becomes a thing? That could be a real issue for the country.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be plus or minus a military intervention. That's just the proper treaty getting made.
Right.
Do you know what BRICS? I'm assuming you know what BRICS is, right?
Remind me.
So, in 2020, maybe even a little bit before that, it'll do that.
Yeah.
In like, let's say 2020, basically what happened is as America's economy started going down, Russia, I want to say Saudi Arabia, maybe.
Is that like Brazil, Russia, Saudi Arabia, that entity?
Yeah, they're coming together to put everything on China's yen.
Yes.
That could be a real issue.
Yeah.
But again, that's not plus or minus a military intervention. That's just, can the right people come in and make a treaty? And then especially when you find out that, like, the Ukrainian war could have been stopped, but, like, they had treaties ready to go. They were going to sign them, but America sent Boris Johnson over there to tell Zelensky to fuck off, that we need this war. It's like, I'm not convinced this is worth fighting for.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like a Red Dawn scenario.
No, it's not. But like that's like what I'm talking about is if we did go back to war with like I'm talking like a Pearl Harbor situation.
Oh, if we got attacked. Yeah,
if we got attacked, and if it was a war that I was like, oh, I want to fight for America.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's different.
But if it's if it's an oil war or if it's something like that, and honestly, when we start a war, the dudes that go to fight it right away don't know what it's about. They know what they're being told. And it's not until years later you find out, like, oh, it's because of this, or oh, it's whatever, Yep. Jim Morrison's dad started Vietnam. It is what it is. You know what I mean? The Gulf of Tonkin, I think, dude, you want to talk about a conspiracy theory? That one's the most real one to me. Jim Morrison's dad was an admiral in the Navy.
Oh, wait, you're being real.
Yeah. Jim Morrison's dad was an admiral in the Navy, and he was the admiral in charge of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which was what kicked off Vietnam. Jim Morrison and the Doors were one of the biggest bands of the counterculture movement.
So for people listening, can you explain what the Gulf of Tonkin was?
The Gulf of Tonkin is guys in the South China Sea. There were ships in the South China Sea, and they said they were being attacked by Vietnamese planes or vessels or something like that. Planes. They said they were being attacked by Vietnamese planes, so we attacked back, and it turned out to be all bullshit. Like nothing. It was a huge like black.
It was a
false flag. Yeah, but it was a huge black eye for the Navy. But that, a lot of people are like, oh, that is the catalyst that started Vietnam. Right. And then you have Jim Morrison and the Doors. Jim Morrison and the Doors are a very interesting band because they're one of the only commercially successful bands in history that don't have a drummer. And you know about music a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But you know that like a percussion is like the backbone of a band. Yeah. Every great dude, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Rush, everybody has a fucking drummer. They're the only commercially successful band that didn't have a drummer. They had it was like a keyboard type deal. That was like their percussion, and they had a bass player, a guitar player, and then Jim Morrison on lead vocals. Light My Fire is a platinum selling song. That is the first song that the guitar player in the Doors ever wrote.
Wow.
I'm not talking like, oh yeah, I scribble some lyrics sometimes. He goes, yeah, I wrote this song called Light My Fire.
Let's try it out.
Yeah, commercially a gigantic success. And then the Doors were behind a lot of the shit in the counterculture movement of like, fuck Vietnam, we're not going over there, shit like that. So people say that...
I'm looking up this guy's dad real quick.
Yeah. Admiral Morrison. People say that the CIA developed the Doors to create the counterculture movement to get more hippies out there, so people can be like, well, fuck these hippies, we need to be in Vietnam if they say we're not supposed to be in Vietnam.
You look up Admiral Morrison, so under his name, the two most searched like Google things are Admiral Morrison, Gulf of Tonkin, Admiral Morrison, USS Liberty.
Yeah. So so he was the admiral in charge of the USS Liberty during that deal, and that's what started the Vietnam War. And that's Jim Morrison's dad.
What the fuck?
There's just a lot of shit that's going on with it. And then when the Doors stopped making music, Jim Morrison died in 1969 at 20. He was a part of the 27 Club.
Right.
But it's just interesting.
Well, because the USS Liberty incident is when the Israeli Navy hit us and killed 34 Americans, and we basically just like had them. No, I think we gave them money to shut up about it.
Maybe, yeah, something. There's a lot of fucked up shit that went on during it. So like, I'm not a conspiracy theory dude, but when there's a lot of shit that goes on like that, I'm like, you're telling me the first song he ever wrote was a fucking multi-platinum selling song? You're telling me that this band is commercially huge without a drummer?
Oh, yeah, I get you.
Like, and just so happens that the lead singer, his dad started Vietnam. And then on top of all that, they're the biggest anti-war band, right?
Well, my whole thing is like, conspiracy theories are one thing, but pattern recognition in recorded history. Like, my favorite one to bring up recently is basically if you look at the playbook of how 9/11 happened, and then you look at how October 7th happened. Yeah. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me...
Like October 7th in Israel?
In Israel. Yeah. Because, like, the parallel I make, so with 9/11, we knew it was going to happen. We had recordings of, like, hey, Osama bin Laden may or may not be getting people together to attack the Twin Towers. Right. We had Osama bin Laden's declaration to America, basically saying, hey, here's why we don't like you people. Yeah. You keep bombing our countries. You keep doing all this, that, and the other. He lays out his grievances, and these things happen. We knew it was going to happen. And I forget who the two intelligence agency like leadership people were, but they wrote this thing. I want to say it was called a clean break or something like that. They wrote something to Benjamin Netanyahu in the 90s, the late 90s, basically saying, hey, success in the region is going to come from toppling Saddam Hussein. And we also recognize that we are not going to be able to invade the Middle East unless we have another Pearl Harbor style attack. Right. So, okay.
Pretty much like, hey, this is what has to happen for us to go in there.
To get public opinion on our side.
Yeah.
So then you
public
look
backing,
at so then you look at October 7th. It's like, okay, so you're telling me the most fortified country in the world next to America
Right.
has the best security and intelligence apparatus in the world, Mossad.
Right. Mossad's the people who got the Nazis after they were created to hunt down fucking Nazis after World War II, and they were very fucking good at it.
So you're telling me that these people were beaten by basically the meanest gang in a prison.
Yeah.
That used hang gliders and trucks. And you guys it took you 6 hours to respond?
Yeah. There's a lot of weird shit.
And this is following months of protests against Benjamin Netanyahu and his reign about how horrible he's been for Israel.
Right.
How people want a new leader. So like, oh no, we got attacked. You need me.
Yeah. It's weird. I just saw this new conspiracy about 9/11. There's one every like 10 years. It's awesome. Mine is there's this dude that he bought the towers. He was this big real estate tycoon, and he bought the towers.
Took out a life insurance policy.
Took out an insurance policy on the towers, which included terrorism. He ate breakfast on the 91st floor of the South Tower every morning, besides the morning of 9/11. And then he got like $4.5 billion in insurance on the towers.
Oh my God.
I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. That's my thing. I'm so dumb about, I am a self-proclaimed fucking dumb person. You know, I'm like, oh, I believe that, you know? And then someone's like, you know, the melting point of steel. I'm like, I'm a welder, but I don't know it, you know? And they're like, it's actually 25,000 degrees, but jet fuel only burns at 19,000 degrees. So how the fuck could it melt the beams? I'm like, I don't know, dude. And you don't fucking either. What are you talking about, bro? You're a janitor. The fuck do you know about infrastructure, you piece of shit? You kidding me? You know? The guy's like, actually, fucking Alex Jones says a lot of crazy shit. All right? The fucking, you know, and the crazy thing, what a lot of people know is the Twin Towers got attacked in the 90s by a car bomb in the basement, and it just didn't go off.
Right.
And I'm like, so you're telling me, I was like, this place has already been targeted. What are you talking? And it's just, I don't like conspiracy theories because I am also very kind of gullible. If someone just has enough stuff that sounds like facts, I'm not going to look it up, you know? And like the only reason I know about the Jim Morrison shit is because I was in the Navy and I was like, bullshit. And I like looked it up like, holy fucking shit. And then I don't know, I go down rabbit holes way too easily, so I try to stay away from conspiracy theories.
But there's also, there are some real dumbasses out there, but generally speaking, if you have just a base level of common sense and intuition, if you look at something that doesn't pass a sniff test, it's like...
Yeah. Well, that's my thing with the fucking...
We can agree we're not being told the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's my thing with Vietnam, is I'm like, that doesn't pass a sniff test at all. I'm like, there's just like... Dude, they are... When I say they're the only... In my brain, in my knowledge of bands... They are the only markedly successful band that, dude, the White Stripes, it was 2 people and half of them were drummers. What are we talking about, dude? Yeah, look it up. See if there's fucking commercially successful bands without drummers.
So all I said in Google was, did the Doors have a drummer? And it said, yes, John Densmore.
No, John Densmore played the fucking...
Let's see. He's best known as the drummer of rock band The Doors, member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, ask it this. Ask it if they had a bass player.
Did the Doors have... This is Googling is great for podcasts.
Yeah, I love it. You can edit it.
The Doors never...
That's what it is.
Never employed a full-time bass player.
So they never had it wasn't a drummer. That's my... See, this is how dumb I am. I fuck shit up all the time.
I mean, the principle's still there, though. That's crazy.
Every song needs a bass line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a bassist is like, you need 3 things for a fucking, it's like.
You need rhythm.
You need some sort of rhythm, right? And I mean, that's the crazy part about it too, is it's just like, didn't have a fucking bass player.
I will say this. One of my favorite roast jokes I've ever heard is some guy roasting a fat dude, and he says, whoever the guy's name, missed his flight on 9/11. So he's responsible for the 2 people that would have taken his seat.
Yes. Oh my God, that's fucking perfect, dude. Oh my God.
I don't know, man. Anyway, you had a great fucking set last night.
Oh, thank you, dude.
Very good job.
That was a lot of fun.
How long have you been doing stand up?
Oh fuck. I was thinking about this today. About 8 years. Hold on, 19 to 28. About 9 years now. Yeah, 9 years.
It shows.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's I've been, and then I just got done doing a lot of really good shows where it was they all had pretty good sets on the road the whole time, and it just it's.
So what I was curious about last night, because you just thought about that bit maybe an hour before the show.
Yeah.
You go up and you used it as a closer.
Yeah.
And it killed.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't know a whole lot about the actual because I'm still trying to learn it, right?
Sure.
How to write a joke, how to write a premise, how to take something that's like what you had, which is basically like I have a premise, I have beats, I have like a skeleton of it.
Yeah.
I have like a skeleton of it. How do I attach muscles to it? How do I make it into a full-fledged thing?
Yeah.
And watching you like work through it on stage.
I like how I told the crowd, I was like, this is the first time I'm doing this. Fucking bear with me, please. Like, I feel like I had to kind of preface that too.
Well, but it's funny because you saying that and having the personality that you do on stage, you're a comedian that can do that. There are other comedians, myself included, that where if I were to, just because of my personality on stage, if I were to say that on stage, it wouldn't land as well. It's not as playful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to be a little silly with it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm figuring it out, guys. Just bear with me, please. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's I don't know. It also just sometimes that just happens where you get a premise. You're riffing. I was riffing with Jake Otero about it, and then I could talk about it on the podcast. Fuck, if somebody steals it, fucking all right, whatever. But it's the premise is and it was just something I saw on Instagram earlier that day, and I was like, that's fucking incredible. Like that's where a lot of my shit comes from, is just thinking about something like, well, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So Tony Hawk's son married Kurt Cobain's daughter. They had a baby, and that baby's granddad is Tony Hawk and Kurt Cobain,
which is crazy,
which is nuts. And the video I saw it on, they had a really good tag. Like that baby came out in plaid. They wrapped that baby in plaid at the hospital, and I was like, God, that's a good tag. I can't use it. But that's a good tag. And then I just thought about it, like, and this is where my mind goes with it, of like, what's that kid gonna be like, you know? And then I thought about like kids, which I always do. I don't.
He was in the Navy.
All right, we're not pedophiles, dude. We're gay. All right. So I just thought about it. I was like, dude, kids. I was like, that kid's. I thought about. I was like, is he going to be a rocker? Is he going to be a skateboarder? And then I was like, well, kids never do what you want them to do anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rarely that someone's son or someone's daughter goes into this. You know, they push them into it. You know. So everybody's going to be trying to push that kid into skateboarding or music. And he's like, I want to be an accountant. And then I just thought about that kid as a grown man at his accounting firm. And for years, right, his last name is Hawk.
Yeah.
So he's just over there he works for the IRS. He's just over there fucking auditing people left and right. And a guy's like, and just there's going to be, and as someone named Maverick, I get this maybe once a month. Someone's like, what, your parents not like you? Parents Top Gun fans? Were you inverted? I'm like, God damn. Yeah, I was inverted, dude. So I know by the time this dude's like 30 and, you know, at this fucking mid-level, you know, job at the IRS, he's just like, and like there's probably one annoying coworker that comes up to him. He's like, hey, I heard about your grandparents. He goes, everybody's got grandparents, Mike. What do you want?
I think that's what helps sell it.
Yeah.
Your act out of him. No, everyone's famous for some reason, man.
Yeah, everybody's famous for some reason. What's up, dude? He's like, well, that's cool. It's cool you have famous grandparents. Like, everybody's famous for something, dude. Could I help you? And he's just like, yeah, I just wanted to ask. And I know there's some dickhead who thinks he's funny, and he's just gonna be like, doesn't it smell like Teen Spirit in here? And then that's like the breaking point for him. And he goes, you know what, Mike? This guy's trying to write off a fucking boat for a lawn company. Okay? What we do here matters. Okay? This is a place of business. It smells like Teen Spirit. It smells like tax fraud. Okay? Can you go back to your desk now, please? He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I need a muffin. And he just gets up and he gets on a skateboard and rides away. Everyone's like, oh, he fucking does. And he's like, yeah, my granddad's Tony Hawk, dude. Kick flips and just fucking leaves, dude. Oh my God. I thought about another tag this morning about it, and I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, my granddad's Tony Hawk, and then throws a shotgun over his shoulder too, and like leaves. He was like, what's the shotgun for? Like, well, my other granddad was Kurt Cobain. Oh my God, yeah. It was just me and Jake's an accounting.
Yeah.
You know, he's like an accounting major, so I was like riffing with him about it, and I was like, Someone's like, yeah, like, dude, how's your half pipe coming along? Like, not as hard as these fucking Q3 reports, dude. Jesus Christ. Can you leave me the fuck alone?
Well, because there's I've heard a lot where you don't really find out how to be a good stand-up comedian until you're 10 years in.
Yeah, and I still don't know how to do it.
I fucking disagree, first of all. So I guess now at the point that you're at, you're on the road a bit, you're doing quite well. And I mean, how long was your set at the theater? And
I was doing, I was doing 20s, but I was doing about 30 every day. I was running the light a little bit.
So how does it, now that you're really like in your groove as a comic, you're very comfortable on stage, very playful. Now that you're starting to really see some like you're reaping what you've been sowing over the last decade almost. Yeah. How does it feel now?
It's funny, dude. Me and Zach Abeda were just talking about this. Is like, you know, we missed the podcast boom where like if you got on Rogan you would become famous overnight. You know, and we missed the Kill Tony boom because I mean, yeah, Kill Tony's going right now, but it's like they got who they need. You know what I mean? And being in Austin, I've seen a bunch of my friends. I know so many fucking people that have been on Kill Tony and have good sets. And then that's all it is. And you just go up there, have a good set. Ah, cool. Thanks. Well, keep at it. Red band, you know, fucking some bullshit like that. And then like, that reminds me when I was talking to my friend Joe Rogan with his gay little cigarette, like, how long have you been doing comedy for? 30 seconds? It shows. I'm like, oh, does it show? Because this is this dude's first time on fucking Killed. It's my first time in front of people, and it's at the fucking fat man at the mothership, dude. Give this dude a little bit of fucking credit. And, you know, we missed that. And so, whatever.
That impression's so good.
I've been working on it for 2 years, dude. So good. Red Band, are you stupid? Red Band, are you retarded? Sorry, Red Band's retarded. Anyway,
we continue.
Yeah, so, but me and Zach were talking, like, you know, whatever the next thing is we're ready for it now. Because Zach's right around the same time as me, you know, the same amount of time as me, and it's like, I mean, if I can compare it to the military at all, which is a crazy comparison, it's literally like we're doing our workup right now for a deployment. Like, we're doing our workup, we're doing, you know, CQB stuff, we're at the range, we're going over our fucking, all of our shit, checking our equipment, like ready to go out, and then whenever it's time to go, we'll be ready. So whatever the fucking next thing is that helps people sell tickets, you know, I hope I'm just trying to be ready for that or whatever it is.
Well, that's a good point when it comes to like you don't know what's coming, but having the tools in the toolkit to be able to show up and whenever your number is picked or whenever that opportunity arises and it's like, hey, now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
How much is it in your experience and with all the comedian friends that you have, like how much of it is something like that, or how much of it is like you get attached to a headliner and the guy or the person's like, hey, you're fun to work with. I got another show coming up. Do you want to come on the road with me?
Yeah, I mean, that happens too. There's a little bit of that, but there's only so many headliners. And a lot of them are like, they got their, it's when you work with a headliner like at a theater or even at like on a comedy club run, there's so much pressure on them to sell tickets and do all this stuff. They don't want to have to worry about their feature. So usually when a headliner gets a feature, they keep them for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's you know, and I thought that was going to be more of a thing if someone's like, hey, you should come on the road with me or whatever. But it's more of a thing like, hey, come do a spot, and it starts out like that. And then after a while, they're like, hey, come feature for us. But
how do you define a headliner?
Someone who could sell tickets. I mean, that's a headliner's a title. You know what I mean? It's and that's all it is. It's a title.
Okay. Well, the reason I just ask is I see, especially like locally.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but like I see these things where it's like this person's headlining this show, and then the headlining set's only like 25 minutes.
Oh yeah,
or like 30 minutes. But I think a headliner should be close. At a minimum, should be like 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, well that's what I'm trying to say. Is like a headliner's someone who can sell tickets or do the time, and good ones can do both. You know what I mean? Like I know dudes that can, you know, sell a bunch of tickets, but their hours shaky, or their 45 is shaky. But I know dudes that have like a tight, sharp hour, but nobody knows who they are. So it's like, in my opinion, a headliner is someone who can sell tickets, and
nobody knows who they are. Is that lack of? I because there's so many variables that go into someone not being successful, but just generally speaking, is because there's outside looking in, people have a idea of like just say show business where it's like the magic clause to come down and choose you. But now that we have social media and now that everyone can be connected at a million different ways, that's how you and I got connected was through mutual contacts, but Instagram was the vessel that made that happen. Is it like they just put themselves out there more? They don't want to be bigger?
I think my thing is like people, you can only do so much at one time, right? So like my thing is headliners either they get famous and then they have to rise to the occasion, or they are like Kyle Kinane's a perfect example. Like Kyle Kinane was always ready to be a headliner for a long, long time. And then, it's up until a few years ago that he's starting to get his flowers and starting to do, theaters and stuff like that. 5-10 years ago, whatever, right? But 15 years ago, he was ready for it. So you're either spending your time trying to get your hour together and become a good comic, and then you worry about I guess maybe that's where I'm at right now is like, for the last 10 years, I've learned how to become a comic and learn how to write jokes and do good in crowds. And now I'm trying to build a following. And then some dudes will build a following and then try to get good at comedy. And then some dudes just it's just at the same time. Like they get famous, they get a manager. The manager's like, you're funny. Your content online's funny. You should become a comedian. They're like, okay, cool. Like, cool. I'll set you up a tour. They're like, okay, cool. And then they go out and they're like...
It's like your TikTok stars or whatever.
Yeah. But kudos to those dudes too. How you make it is how you make it.
I'm not saying it's a knock, but that's kind of what... that's what comes to mind for me because it's...
Oh, yeah. TikTokers, YouTubers, Instagram people, whatever. So, just how you get there is how you get there. But that's why I say a headliner is just somebody who can sell tickets. Because I've seen headliners and they're not good.
Yeah,
but I've seen features and hosts and stuff that are really fucking good, but just nobody knows who they are.
Right.
There's 1,000 of those dudes in Austin of dudes that are just murderers, but they're so worried about becoming good comics. They're not worried about clip engagement and content distribution and shit like that. So it's like,
well, it's a weird pressure, right?
It is.
You have to be good at what you're doing, but at the same time, you have to understand how to work social media to your advantage, and you have to worry about how. Like, is this clip, is it going to work? Even if the content inside of it is good, is it going to, catch the algorithm? Is it people going to hold people's attention? Is it blah, 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 blah?
Me and Zach were talking about this recently of, it was so much easier when we were, just starting because all we had to worry about was comedy. All I had to worry about was having a good set. Now I have to worry about having a good set, filming that good set. Did that good set have good audio? Did it have good beats? Did it have good lighting? Okay, cool. Now I need to edit it. And now, in my editing, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got to cut this. And then you have to take what you did, and condense it down, format it for Instagram.
It's like 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah, it's like 30, 40 seconds, of 90 seconds the most. But, what's weird is once you become bigger, you don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. Because you're so big and you're making so much money, you just pay dudes. Like, I know a bunch of headliners who are they'll take a feature on the road who's good at videography, and they'll be like, hey, along with featuring for me, I'm going to also pay you to video for me, and then I'm going to pay you to edit my clips. And now you don't have to worry about it anymore. You just have to go worry about paying that dude, and then he does all your shit, and then and then from there it grows,
And you can't blame them. If and when the time comes and I have some money in my pocket, that's the first thing I'm giving away is my social media.
Dude,
please just here's my passwords.
Yeah.
Here's the footage. Please do everything.
One of my favorite things is Leanne Morgan right now. Do you know who that is? Mm-mm. She's like this Southern mom comedian, but so funny, so talented, and she's been doing it for years. And right as she was about to give up, she hired two guys like our age to just record and make clips for her and put it out. And then once she did that, fucking boom, she hit. Now she's got a Netflix special. And that happened within a course of a couple of years. Yeah. Like she was telling somebody on a podcast the other day, she's like, and she's from rural Georgia or something like that, or somewhere in the South. And she was like, and her husband's just like a Joe Schmo type guy, like just a regular dude. And she was like, we were going to open up a hardware store. we were 6 months away from opening up a hardware store. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get these two boys and I'm going to see if they can give me a hand with all this social media clickety-clackety nonsense. And then they started posting clips of me, and then boom, there it is. And I was like, that's how it... And my dad sent me that clip, and I was like, all right, Dad, I don't think you understand. You don't get it. It's like, I don't have the... And my dad's like, I'll fucking film for you. I'm like, Dad, you don't know anything about filming. You don't know anything about filming, dude. What do you talk... Like, you don't know about lighting, about, the right exposure lenses or anything. I mean, it's like, anybody can film, but you need somebody who's good at filming. You know, anybody can record, audio, but you need to have crisp audio. You know what I mean? Anybody can edit. Like I can edit a clip on through Instagram.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as good as when I do it through DaVinci Resolve, and I can add stuff in there and a title and subtitles and all this shit, right? So I don't know, man. It's pretty wild.
When did you start seeing like that you're following this? Because you have a bit of a following.
A little bit.
When did you start to see, like, how many years did that take for you? Where it was like, hey, I've now crossed 8,000, 9,000.
It's so weird, dude. It's when someone's like, one post could change your life. I'm not saying a post has changed my life, but I could see that because like I've been posting like silly videos for a long time, but it's very inconsistent. But there's been a couple that I post that just get millions of views, and Instagram tells you like so-and-so followed you from the reel, so-and-so followed you from this, and that's the cool thing about Instagram is it'll tell you about like how you got this follower from engagement. And I've posted 3 or 4 videos that have gone viral, and over each one of those was like, oh, this one gave me 4,000 followers. Oh, this one gave me 10,000 followers, or whatever. Like before I posted that one, I think I was sitting at 3,000 followers for a long time, and then I posted a video, and then it went to 10, and I was like, oh, cool, there's 10,000 followers. And I posted another one, then it went to 12. I was like, oh, 12,000, all right, cool. And then I got a K in my follower account. I was like, oh, cool, I got a K, nice. And then it went to 16, and then it went to 16.1, and then I did stop posting for a while, and it went back down to 16, and I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense, I guess. But that 0.1, whatever, is probably bots that Instagram just wiped out, deleted all their accounts or whatever, and then it just dropped my
Was it all like stand-up stuff? Was it just like lifestyle?
I've never gotten good response from any of my stand-up clips, and that's why I don't post a lot of them. But it's just like, I posted one about just going to a gas station. So my family lives in this rural town in Texas called Bowie. And
where the fuck is that?
It's kind of by Decatur and Wichita Falls area, like North Texas.
Yeah.
But I stopped in this gas station, and something happens whenever I go through these gas stations. Like it's like they transform me into a southerner, and I just started having this conversation with this gas station attendant. And he was like, "How you doing today?" I'm like, "Brother, any better? I'd be twins." And he's like, I hear that. I'm like, hey, what's one of them sausage rolls all about? He goes, brother, I'll tell you right now, they're better than my mama's. I'm like, I ain't gonna tell her that. He goes, you better not. And I'm like, oh shit. He goes, hey, and then we just left. But I was like, how funny would it be? Like, hey, Jim Bob's in the hospital. We're praying for him. But hey, tell him I'm gonna pray double for that man. I'm gonna pray hard for his wife. He goes, oh boy, you ain't lying.
So what you guys just saw is white people code switching.
Yeah, 100%. White people code switching like a motherfucker, dude. And I was like, I was going to Oklahoma to go do something, and I was just driving, and I was like, that was a funny exchange. I was like, man, maybe I'll post that, and I posted it, and it got like, I don't know, let's be douchey for a second.
I just asked about that because that's what pushed, for the podcast page, that's what pushed me over 1,000. Was I had a clip. It was just so stupid because I try to post things that like make the guests look good and like illustrate who they are as people. If there's some funny stuff, I'll put some funny stuff up. But just who are these people as a person, as an artist, or whatever, right? And they do like not great by like bigger stand, but they do all right.
Oh yeah.
But then I had one of me. It was me and Joey, and then 2 of our other buddies. We were hammered. It was like 1:00 in the morning, and we were laughing at an AI video of Winston Churchill. That one clicked up to fucking 5 million.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what? Cool.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I'm happy for it, but it's like, okay, that's what people want. All right.
It's that video got like 3.3 million views or something like that. Just me talking about that little exchange. And then, but like my clips have never done bad. Like it's kind of funny. Like you have to remember that there's people out there who post stand-up clips and they get like 300 views, and I'm like, I posted this video and I got like 5,000 views or whatever. And someone's like, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right. You know what I mean? And I think it's just you got to be grateful for any engagement you get. One of those deals.
No, I completely agree. How far into you doing stand up did you make the decision that it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna push for this to be a career. Like, was that an immediate thing? Did it take a couple of years?
I remember being about 6 months in, asking Kurt Fletcher, "How do you get a special?" And he was like, "Slow down. You've been doing this 6 months. Chill the fuck out." And I was like, okay, but how do you do it? And he's like, you do it for 10 years. And I'm like, yeah. Okay. And dude, my thing is like, I've always just kind of, and I think this is how any type of successful anything goes, is you just do it, and eventually you just start getting more and more and more and more, and then until you're like, oh, this is like your career. And that's how I know a lot of comics are just like, I've never had any, like, I tell my girlfriend this all the time. I'm like, if you just came to me and you're like, hey, I want you to stop doing stand-up, it's hindering our relationship or whatever, she would never ask me that. But the fact that, like, I love her so much that I would, but I would still always just kind of go to open mics, you know, once a month. I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go do an open mic, whatever. She's like, okay, you know. And it's something like, I'll always do comedy, but it's just, it kind of hit me about a year into doing comedy that I'm not special, but I'm in a very special circumstance to where I started really young, started at 19, and I was not bad at it when I started. And I'm like looking around at all these other comics, and they're all like in their late 20s, early 30s. They all have either they're married, they have kids, they have a career, and I'm just like, every decision. And after that, I was like, oh, I have a chance of doing this if I work really hard, really fast. You know, maybe by the time I'm 35, I can be like a nationally touring headliner or whatever. But every decision I've made since I started comedy has been for comedy. Like, you know, everything I'm like, every career choice, every move, every major life thing like that has been comedy adjacent, right? Like, I moved to Oklahoma to continue my apprenticeship because my dad lived there and they have a bigger comedy scene. And then I moved to Austin because I outgrew Oklahoma City comedy scene. And then...
How did you know you outgrew it?
Just kind of the same. I felt myself getting lazy, you know, which is something I never felt in Austin. Or you feel yourself getting lazy because you can just do shit. You could just go up to a show and be like, hey, I want a spot. I'm like, okay, cool, come on, you know. Or you just, every single set you're doing is a fucking killer set, and you're just like not being challenged anymore. Like, right? So it's like, and that sounds so fucking douchey, but it's just like,
douchey would be like, because I was better than everybody else.
Yeah,
that's douchey. You know what that is? It's like in a video game where you're like level 2 and you try to enter an area where there's only level 10 enemies and you just get sloshed.
Yeah, you get murdered. Yeah.
But then when you're level 50 and you go to an area that's like level 13 and you just destroy everything. Okay, I probably shouldn't be hanging out here anymore. Right. And just to further this dorky analogy, the experience points I'm getting out of it aren't helping me level up.
Right. Like, so the reason I left Albuquerque, the thing that kind of like clicked in my head was I was at work and I got hit up to do a show that weekend that I had done like 10 times. And it was like it was a monthly show, or it was like a bi-weekly show, and I had done it, and it had been going on for a few years, but I had done it like 10 times. And then I got hit up, and this is gonna kind of sound weird, but I got hit up for 3 shows in one day, which at that time wasn't very uncommon. 3 is a little, maybe like 1 or 2, you know, maybe in a day or whatever. But like, I got hit up for 3 shows in a day, and I was like, and they were all shows I've done multiple times, and I was like, I just kind of had this weird like thought of like, man, do I really just want to keep doing these same shows over and over and over again? Like, they're not making me any better.
And what year was this? Around
2018.
Okay.
And I was like, and I brought it up to something, and I couldn't, I think I might have brought it up to my dad, and he was like, dude, I think you need to venture out, try to go somewhere bigger. Seems like, and he was the one who kind of brought it to my attention, like, it seems like you're kind of outgrowing this. And I was like, yeah, I guess maybe. And then I started looking at other comedy scenes, and I made the decision to go to Oklahoma City because my dad lived there. I could transfer my apprenticeship there, and it was a bigger comedy scene. And I just wanted to get out of New Mexico for a while too. And then I was there for a few years too. I mean, and admittedly, some of those were COVID years where I didn't do a whole lot. About a year, didn't do a whole lot. And then, yeah, kind of the same deal. Like towards the end of it, I was like, I knew I wanted to travel, like move somewhere. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like telling her, I was like, I want to move to either Denver, where there's some of the best joke writers in the country, or Austin, which is about to blow up because Rogan's going to move down there. And Rogan's not just going to move down there and not do anything. I know that. And so, you know, and so I was like, well, when am I going to move? When am I going to move? And then I finished my apprenticeship. I was working as a journeyman. And so now I could quit a company if I wanted to, which you can't do when you're an apprentice. So I kind of like had my own life now. Like nobody really controlled it, you know? And I was like, well, let's go down to Austin and see what this is, you know? And I just kind of, I was just kind of doing the same shows over and over again, right? I was hosting at Bricktown. I was, you know, I started kind of towards the end of my time in Oklahoma, I was like featuring at Bricktown. I was like just doing just the same showcases over and over and over again. I was going to Tulsa and doing really good up there. I was doing stuff. the moment I knew I had to leave was there's a comedy festival in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, called the Blue Whale. And the first year I lived there, I submitted to it. I didn't get in. The next year I lived there, I submitted to it, didn't get in. The third year I lived there was COVID. And then the fourth year, I didn't submit to it. And I saw somebody who kind of like is on the panel of people who picks comics. And they go, why didn't you submit to Blue Whale? I was like, I've never gotten into it, so I just didn't submit. They're like, dude, you should have just hit me up. I would have let you do a show. Like, bypass the submission process and just go do this show. I was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because once they start doing stuff like that for you, and the thing is like stuff like that will make a comic super lazy. Because now I don't have to work for Blue Whale anymore. I can just go do it. Which is like, I still haven't done it, but I've been offered to do it a couple times. And they're not like headliner rooms, but it's like, hey, hop on this showcase and this showcase, and maybe we can get you a couple more. I'm like, oh, cool. But it was just one of those deals of like, I need to go. I'm outgrowing this place. And then I went down to Austin, and I realized I don't need to really be down there because it's turning into Austin's kind of turning into Hollywood a little bit. It's kind of cloudy, and everyone's like, oh, how many followers do you like? If you have 100,000 followers and you're funny, you can probably go get on a show in Austin pretty easily. You know what I mean? And
is that really like, I hate to reduce it, but is that really like your ticket to entry? Is your following
because your following is your tickets.
Yeah.
They don't, I mean, they
let me rephrase that question, I guess. So are you framing it as like they'll put you on a show because they want you to promote it because of the following you have? Or is it they put you on the show and then your name gets attached to it and they're like, oh shit, they have another big person on here?
Yeah, it's both, right?
Okay.
So, comedy is there's so much comedy in Austin that like, and there's only so many comics there that people trust to do these shows. So if you, Noah went there and you have 150,000 followers and they, and you're funny, you will, like how we met, you hit them up through Instagram. You say, hey man, I'm going to be in Austin in 2 weeks. I've heard about your show. I would love to come do it. If you have a spot, they're going to go to your page and be like, oh, this dude's got a huge following. This guy's probably get some tickets. They're like, yeah, come on in. Just promote the show for us. We're like, all right, cool. And then you go, and now they have another revenue to sell tickets.
Okay.
Right. So now you're not only, and you might not be that person might not be the funniest comic.
I was going to say and I hate to ask this and not make it sound not nihilistic, but like pessimistic, I guess. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but in that scenario, what's more important? Is it the exposure or is it the ability?
What do you mean?
Like your ability to be funny, like how funny you are and the amount of eyeballs you can put on the show. What gets weighed more?
I would say, because they're going to have funny people on that show no matter what.
Right.
There's so many killers in Austin that you can go to any door guy at any of the clubs. I don't think any of the door guys at Cap City do I think one or two might, but you can go find a killer just on the street in Austin.
Yeah.
You can go find a fucking murderer and be like, hey, come do this spot. But, oh, we also got Noah Vargas coming in and he's going to do 10.
Well, I remember we were walking down the street. I think it was like that Sunday we were going out, and we were walking down the street. Yeah, he's really funny. She's really funny. They're funny.
Dude,
he's a killer. And I'm just like, fuck. Dude, people just carry sets in their back pocket like a pocket knife.
Dude, yeah. Dude, there's dudes down there that you can be like, it's funny. If I was a showrunner in Austin and I had a good lineup and one guy bailed out, I wouldn't be worried. If 3 guys bailed out, I wouldn't be worried. If I was doing it at the Creek, I could go out in the patio and be like, hey, come do a set. You come do a set. Oh, hey, you come do a set too. Cool. My lineup's good.
The Creek in the Cave is so fucking cool.
It's cool.
Dude.
It's one of the best places ever. Shout out to Creek in the Cave. They're fucking awesome.
That place is so fucking cool.
It's magical, dude. It's a cool place, man.
Every time I see like your stories or like Allison's stories about like just like comedy in Austin in general,
yeah,
mainly, I get I'm sitting in here. I get so fucking jealous. I'm like,
it's great, dude. But that's another thing too. Is if you, I mean, and I don't think I'm saying anything out of character, out of pocket, but like if you have a lot of followers, you can go get on a show there.
Yeah.
Which is fun. You have to be a comic as well, right? They can't just have some fucking dickhead who's like, hey, like fucking Dizzy Lokes couldn't go down there and go do a fucking show. I don't think, yeah, he's got a big following, but he couldn't go and just fucking, just be like, hey, what's up? I'm Dizzy Lokes. They're gonna be like, are you a comic? He goes, I'm funny. Like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
But if they see that you're a comic and you got a lot of followers, like, oh yeah, cool, come on. So that's when I realized I was like, oh, I don't need to be here anymore. I can go back to Oklahoma with my family and my girlfriend, and where there's a clubs that I'm very comfortable at. My home club's there, my dad's there, all this stuff, and I can just go down to Austin and go do shows. If I keep my followers growing or I keep it, whatever.
Have you moved out of Austin?
I moved back to Oklahoma last Sunday, just for a little bit. I mean, and I got the camper too, so it's not like
I know you're mobile anyway.
Yeah, so I don't have like a lease or nothing.
It's a badass camper, by the way.
Pretty fucking sick camper, 2016 Keystone Cougar. And I gotta use the bathroom again, but do you mind if I'm going to tell one story, then I'll come back. Is that cool? Yeah. I want to keep doing this. This is I got all day. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, sure.
So I've been trying to get into the mothership for like 2 years. This is the most fuck comedy, dude. Fuck comedy.
Oh no.
Fuck.
As I'm wearing the hat.
Fuck comedy, dude. I fucking hate it. God hates me. I've been trying to get into the mothership for 2 years, and I've done mics there. I've done roast battles there, but never like a booked like, hey, come do a show here. You know what I mean? On my way to Oklahoma, I'm going to feature for Laser in Oklahoma City. Like moving out. Halfway, I crossed the Oklahoma line, and Cam Patterson texts me, and he goes, "Hey, I'll read it for you. This is
for the uninitiated. He is Cam Patterson, very funny guy, very nice guy, by the way.
Cam is one of the nicest, sweetest people ever.
One of the biggest comics to come out of Kill Tony, period, but definitely right now.
Oh, he's a very deserving, he's a crusher.
Yeah.
Huge social media following, but also very deserving. He's hardworking too, which I love. And he's also just a sweet fucking dude. Like, I'll see him on the street and he'll be like, "What up?" Or whatever. Anyway, so
yeah.
So he texts me, dude, and I had just crossed the Oklahoma line, not even in Texas anymore. He goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I was like, I looked at it, I was like, I go, usually I'd be like, "Oh, nothing." I just go, "What's up?" And he goes, "Want to do Cam and Friends tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Where at?" He goes, "Mothership at 8.
Do you know how quick I would turn around? Do you know how quick I would slam on the brakes and pull a U-turn, wreck that camper, and speed back to Austin? Not to rub it in.
This is what's going on. So like, I have a long distance girlfriend, right? She's going to school in Tulsa, and I live in Austin, and I was the week up until I left. I'm like, I can't wait to see you. We're finally going to be like in close proximity to each other. I love you. Oh my God. Oh. So that's the Cam and Friends was on a Monday. And you know what, dude, and this is just like me. I don't know. This is just like my thing. And I'm not saying like, oh, if I didn't have a girlfriend, I'll be able. I'm like, no, fuck that.
No. This is real life though.
This is real life shit.
No, this is real life.
I was like, you know what? Like, here's this person who loves me and is excited to see me, and I'm like, fuck it. And at that moment, I had this realization of like, the mothership's just another comedy club. Yes, it's great and it's big and it's shiny and there's so many cool people there, but it is, man. It's just another club.
Yeah.
That said, I would do with Cam when it changed my life.
Right.
When it changed my career. I'm not going to do that set, and Rogan's not going to come down from the balcony and kiss my feet on stage.
Right,
and say,
him or Adam E.
Adam Egan's not going to be like, "I'm so sorry, I've overlooked your set 7 times. Please, I know you've done this mic so many times, but please come back. Please be a regular." Like, that's not going to fucking happen.
Right.
I'm going to go do that show. I'm going to do good. They're gonna give me a handshake. I'm going to thank Cam for the show, and then I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And seeing my girlfriend and spending time with her is more important to me than that. And I was like, you know what? And I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, thank you. I can't do it." He's like, "What do you got going?" And then also, and it's also not like I could just be like, "Babe, just give me one more day, right? I'm going to go down there. I'll be back Tuesday, Sunday I was featuring for Laser. Monday I was spending all day with her. Tuesday I was going on the road.
Right.
So it was like, that was our day.
Right, yeah.
So
you made the right choice.
Yeah, so my life would have been like, okay, I'm going to go to Oklahoma, go back to Austin, then I'm going to go to Durango from Austin, and then I'm going to do all these shows, and then I'm going to see her in like a week. So a day would have turned into a fucking week, and I didn't want that. I wanted to see her, you know? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And I told Cam, I was like, "Hey, dude, thank you. Just keep me in mind for the next one." He goes, "Nah, you never doing the mothership again, Playboy." I was like, fuck! And I was like, all right. And he was like, "Nah, man, I'll keep you in mind." I was like, "Dude, thank you so much." And then he ended up picking another comic I think he picked our buddy Billy Swift, Billy Swift's a fucking crusher.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, Billy Swift's great. He's a good friend of mine. I love him.
You made the right choice, and I'll say this before we use the restroom. I listened to a podcast with Tom Holland and Rich Roll.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how Tom Holland's very young, but he's made it a point to, like, once he gets done with the project, takes a lot of time off, whatever.
Yeah.
And what the host had brought up, he goes, yeah, well, there's a need, especially when you're young, to, like, there's this pressure to really work hard and always keep going and do everything that's offered to you and do all these things. But if you have, the way he phrased it, if you have the goods, like if you have the talent, those opportunities aren't going to go anywhere. Like, they're going to come back. The mothership is just another club. You're completely right.
Yeah.
And being able to, yes, you've built connections and you've worked very hard, but you have the ability to go do these things, that opportunity can very well come the following week or like the next month.
Yeah.
And it'll always come back.
Right.
But yeah, the time you spend with loved ones, that doesn't come back.
Yeah. The amount of time I would, that time with my girlfriend, I can never get that back. And it would honestly probably put like a hindrance on our relationship. Because now I'm picking comedy, which is something that, it's like, yeah, it's always there, but like, I want to build a life with this person and I want to be there for them. And I want to show them like, hey, like we're creatures of repetition. We do the same thing over and over again and the result doesn't change. Right. And we're wondering like, fuck, why is, I drank all day. I drank all night Saturday. I'm hungover Sunday. I got to go to work Monday. Why does this keep happening to me? Oh, it's because I keep drinking every night on Saturday and getting fucked up, and then my Sunday's lost.
Right.
I lost a girl. I mean, me and a girl broke up because I moved to Austin because I picked comedy over a person. And yeah, admittedly, me and that girl probably would have broken up anyway. We just weren't right for each other, whatever. But I love this girl way more than I love that girl, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna make the same mistake of like, oh, cool, I'm gonna pick comedy. I'm going to pick a 10-minute set 5 hours away over this girl who I want to spend the rest of my life with. You know what I mean? And sometimes you got to make sacrifices for the people you love. And the thing is like, I'm not sacrificing for her. I'm sacrificing for us. Because I also wanted to see her.
Right.
I also wanted to spend that time with her.
It was like a burden.
Yeah. And it was just like one of those things of like, man, it is what it is. And I told her that, and she felt bad. And she was like, "Oh, you should have went and done it." I was like, "No." And then I told her that I was like, "Mothership's just another club. When you start holding it at this like high up pinnacle level, that's when you're going to get disappointed in it, right? Because yeah, I would have done all right, or done good, or done bad, and then that 10 minutes is over. You're like, okay, what now?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm gonna use the bathroom.
Yeah. No.
I've been wanting to touch this for about 2 hours now.
I spend money on very ridiculous things, but
yeah,
I like them. And you know what that is? That's a tax write-off, son. That is a studio decoration.
All right, dude. Someone's going to jail. I love that, dude. I love that.
That is a tax write-off.
Like, this is a 3-foot bong. What is that? Yeah, that's called ambiance, dude. You ever fucking heard of it? Yeah.
I gotta say, man, I really dig. Now, granted, now that I know that you left Austin for a little bit, I don't know how much it's going to continue, but that fucking drilling banjo shit you got going is pretty great.
Oh, I'm going back next Sunday to go record another episode.
Nice.
It's going better than any podcast I've ever done, so I'm just like, we're going to do this until people get tired of it.
It's a lot of fun to watch.
Those dudes are fucking nuts, dude. Shout out to Trey Pack and Mason Smith. They're fucking... If you don't know, it's a podcast I do with two friends who just... Our premise was... what's funny is we came up with the idea for that podcast waiting to get rejected for the Joe Rogan mic. And
oh wait, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I wanted to say that earlier. I'm gonna pause this story for a second.
Okay.
Going on 6th and signing up for that mothership mic,
yeah,
is psychotic.
It's crazy. It's fucking nuts.
It is. Like, I tell people, and my comedian friends believe it because they like watch Kill Tony and they understand like all that. But I just like my friends that don't do comedy, that aren't in that world. I'm like, yes, this is what it was like. And like, there's no fucking way there's that many people.
Oh, it's insane. 250 people every. Now it's once a week. They took away the Sunday.
Oh,
now it's just no. They took away the Monday. Now it's just on Sunday. So now the 500 people over 2 days was now 500 people a day.
And I saw they only let like so many people sign up. And
yeah,
like,
they cap it off at a certain amount. And they only let 16 on, which is nuts.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, so we were sitting there and we were waiting to get rejected for that mic. And so for those of you at home who don't know, you show up at Mothership at a certain time. You stand in a fucking 3 mile long line, and then
it's so real. Like
it's not 3 miles, but it is like it's down the fucking block.
It's multiple blocks.
It's crazy. So
it's a mob.
So you go, you sign up, and then you go and fuck off for an hour or whatever until they put out a list. And once the list gets put out, then they gather everybody up, and then there's usually people who miss their spot because they're like, oh, whatever, and then like they fuck off, so go get drunk or something like that or whatever. And so then they have like leftover spots. So then you have to stand there, and then while fucking some door guys just like, and it's funny because I mean most of the door guys there are like a friend of mine or I know them, a little bit, and they're like, pick a number. They'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pick a number between 1 and 9, and they'll be like, all right, 1, 2, and they'll like count you off, and then they'll do like a random draw, and it'll be like 7, and then you're 6 or you're 8, and you're just like, oh, fuck. And
you're telling me if I stood right there?
Yeah, you're telling me if I just switched spots with this fucking guy, I'd have a spot right now. But so we were down the road at Jackalope. We were down the road at Jackalope getting beers or whatever, just waiting for the fucking disappointment of our lives. And it's like Mason and me and Trey are all very good friends in real life. And the podcast is just like somebody just puts cameras in front of us. It's usually me and Trey being like, Mason, you can't say that. You know what I mean?
You guys shitting on Mason's hilarious.
Mason's
a great guy.
Oh, great
I
guy.
loved meeting him.
Yeah, dude, he's a good dude. And it's so fun just how he's just on his own shit. He's just like, we told this story about him and Trey going on the road together, and Mason was being like a nightmare the whole time. And it was us being like, dude, do you see this? And at the end he just goes, yep, I'm awesome. And I'm like,
that was a great impression too.
I'm like, motherfucker, dude. God damn it. All right. Yeah, you're awesome, Mason. Jesus. But we love him. He's one of our friends. Like me and him did, we worked with Laser on Sunday, and Mason had a great set.
I was meaning to ask you about that. How'd that show go?
It went really well.
Awesome.
Mason did good. Laser did good. I did good. The host did good. It was a good show. So, but we were sitting there, and we were like, and me and Trey are always like, we should start a podcast. And me and Mason like, we should start a podcast about welding. I'm like, there is nothing more I would not want to do in this world than a fucking podcast. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about porosity and TIG welding. Like, what the fuck, dude? No. Today, guys, we're talking about lack of fusion on a test coupon. And something came on, and we were all like arguing about it. And I was like, oh, this is the podcast. I was like, what if it's just us three? And we decided to call it Drooling Banjos, and then I pitched it to a couple of podcast studios there in Austin, and they're like, we need more. We just can't have three rednecks cussing at each other for an hour, And I was like, what if we try to solve a problem every episode, like one of the world's problem, like a big problem in the world? And
wait, pitch it to studios?
Yeah, pitch it to a podcast studio.
What?
So I mean, there's so many comics in Austin now that podcast studios. I mean, we could obviously start one, no big deal. Like our own studio, but like there's 3 or 4 in town that are good, and they'll video. You don't have to buy any shit. You just show up at a time. They'll record it. They'll either give you the raw footage and you edit it, or you pay them a little bit of money and they edit it. And that's kind of what we were like. So, but those studios are like, they already have a lot of spots. So you have to be like, well, like we pitched at the Creek in the Cave studio, and he was like, and the manager of the podcast dude there was like, I need more. I'm like, what else? I mean, he's a good dude. He's a great guy.
Well, I just ask guys, I would just think it'd be a matter of, like, can you pay for the time? All right, do what you want.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of people can pay for the time. You know what I mean? But also it's like under their banner too. So it's like they want to know it's not like an alt-right podcast or some crazy shit. So we pitched to them, and then I don't know why, it was for some reason there was like a bunch of like hoops we had to jump through at that studio. And then we were like, and then Mason was like, oh, what if we get Taylor Gorman, our producer, Gorecast Studios, shout out. And we told Taylor. Taylor's like, I love that idea. That's great. Yeah, let's do that. And so yeah, we started doing it there, and it's been a lot of fun, dude. It's been really cool, and the engagement it's gotten so far is cool because I've never got like that type of, and it's not very big, and get like one of our videos just hit 200 views, and we were like.
I mean, for just starting.
Yeah. Mason.
I pray for 200 views. I'm 4 years in.
Mason texts the group chat. He goes, 200 views, baby, and I just like it. I'm like, yep, there we go, buddy. So, but it's a lot of fun, you know. It's a good dynamic, and me and Trey are like that play the straight, and then Nate Mason's just the wild card, and yeah, it's a great setup. It's really cool. I'm really grateful for it. So,
you know, I also am a fan of podcasting, but I love how natural it is to other comedians. Like, obviously it's at its genesis with like Rogan 15 years ago and all that stuff, but like the fact that you can potentially build your expose your following to new people, and like the vice versa of it, and the help like the crossing the streams of it, that the fact that something so fun is a part of it can be considered like a business move. You know what I mean? I love it.
Something that's exciting for me is like, let's say we do this podcast for 3 years, you know, and it grows, and we get a little bit of a following, and we get X amount of downloads a month or X amount of views, right? We can go to comedy clubs and be like, hey, we want a one-nighter. We have a big following in this town. Like, just give us, and that comedy club, most of them just want money. So there's just more of like, can you sell tickets? Can you put asses in seats? Can you sell chicken fingers? And, you know, you just, you know, tell me, yeah, this is what we can do. This is our, we think we can sell this many. And then I could potentially start going on the road with Mason and Trey doing comedy. And I love both of their, and that's another thing too, is like, sometimes you get asked by comics, like, hey, we should start a podcast. You're like, dude, I love you, but I don't like your comedy. You're like, fuck, I love you, but if this thing gets big, doing shows with you would suck. So the fact that I like both of their stand up a lot, I'm like, yeah, dude, that'd be great if this thing got big and we started doing shows together.
It makes perfect sense on paper, but experiencing it firsthand, going on the road with Zach and Jake, when we were driving down to Ruidoso, I was like, you know what? Thank God these guys are cool.
Yeah, congrats on that, by the way, too, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all Zach, dude. That is literally all Zach. Like,
well, I mean, he believes in you enough to let you come host.
Yes, because that literally came because I remember what started the conversation was like at 1 o'clock in the morning. He just gave me a call.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what's up, dude? And we just started talking, long story short. He's like, what? Oh, because he was holding a show down in Roswell.
Yes.
And I really wanted to I didn't even know that was happening. He was like, hey, man, like, I hate to be that guy, but.
Right.
And he was super cool with me asking, but I was like, hey, great, like, I know that I could get like at least fucking 30 people down there. Like, I know that I can.
Yeah.
Because I lived down there for so long and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, we have a limited amount of time, and so I can't get you on that, but I've got Ruidoso coming. Do you want to go do that? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's how it happens a lot of the time, too. Yeah. And I mean, if I had to give any advice to anybody about anything, it's just be fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like, be cool, be a good hang. And, dude, being a good hang will get you a lot farther than a tight 5-minute set. You know? Like, I know a lot of comics who go on the road with, like, huge headliners. And yes, they are very good comics, but B, they are just cool to fucking hang out with. You know what I mean? Because you got to think, like, if you're on the road with somebody, like me and Trey were on the road for 15 hours a day, we're together. You know what I mean? And it's just, I mean, you gotta like that person.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Trey were in the car together for long stretches, driving from Durango to here, Santa Fe to Flagstaff. We were, you know, we ate dinner together. We, you know, did the show. Then after the show, and, you know, and I'm driving around, and it's like, yeah, if you're with somebody that's like, for the most part, it's just like, dude, that dude has to be fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know? And I know dudes that like get on the road with guys because they're good at like I said, like videography. Like I know dudes that'll like, yeah, I'm so-and-so's feature, but also I do videography for him and I cut clips for him. So it's like, you know, it's like, oh, cool. Like this dude's a good comic, a good hang. Oh, and he like, just be disposable to the headliner.
Well, I was going to say, making yourself useful.
Right.
Be multifaceted.
Yeah.
And that's the point that I got to. I was very obvious when I started doing stand-up a little over a year ago. I was like, well, I'm already doing the podcast.
Right.
And that's providing some value. Mm-hmm. I can already tell that.
Yeah.
But I have the equipment.
Yeah.
If the time comes that I can start recording sets, not just for myself, but other people, I'm going to fucking do it.
Right.
They're not the best cameras in the world. I mean, I'm very thankful that I have them.
Yeah.
But not like these fucking crazy thousands of dollars of cameras with the perfect audio and all that nonsense.
I mean, maybe that's the thing we do too, is like maybe, you know, I start coming here, you know, every once in a while and you record some sets for me. Yeah. And you open for me or feature for me or whatever. And, you know, or like I headline, Zach features, and then you host, and you know, whatever you need was. And that's the cool. Like when I was on the road, Josh Wolf, dude, like I would help sell his merch.
Yeah.
Like I would go, but I mean, and he'd never asked me to. He was never like, "Hey, could you help sell the merch?" I was like, "Here, let me help you. What do you need? Oh, you need a ride somewhere? You want me to take you to the airport in the morning? Like, what do you just like be at their disposal and just be cool, and that'll get you way farther. It's like, what's that say? Like, it has nothing to do with it, but it's a kind of a cool quote. It's like, you can get a lot farther with a kind word and a gun than you can with a kind word alone. You know? So, I mean.
Well, no, yeah, you're completely right. Just being useful to the person that's effectively employing you.
Yes.
And just helping build that relationship and like network and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Just have no pride in it. You know what I mean? And just be like, hey, dude, let me drive you. Here, you need food? Let me go get it for you. Like, the more you can. If a headliner could just sit there, go on stage and get off and have everything he needs, like they are going to be very happy with you or with the situation.
Well, and then when you start reaching the level that you have, you're almost a decade in, you're extremely skilled at what you're doing. And someone like me shows up where I'm green as shit. I know next to nothing. I'm in a brand new city that I know nobody in. I'm only there for a few days. I mean, dude, like my Austin trip, and I say this as much as I can, my Austin trip would not have been as cool as it was if you weren't there.
Oh, thank you, man.
That's just perfectly fucking obvious to me.
Yeah.
But seeing it's like you peeled back the curtain to Oz a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is what it is.
Right.
This is what's available.
Yes.
These people are cool, but like this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And that motivated the fuck out of me.
Oh, cool.
So I'm like, because I was like, oh, she's like, I'm meeting these people I've either seen like on social media or I've seen on Kill Tony or I've seen whatever, but they're like cool people. They came up. They came up in a conversation with a buddy of mine, Nevin, who's a singer for a band in town. He's a huge Kill Tony fan. And so, like, I think, like, last week...
Dude, a lot of musicians are. It's weird.
Yeah?
Like, a lot of, like... sometimes you meet musicians in Austin, like, dude, Kill Tony's my shit. Well, it's probably because they have a band, and the band's really good as well. But,
right.
Yeah, anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, so, because we'll talk about whenever Kill Tony drops. And he goes... We were talking, and he said something about Carly, because Carly had gotten on that episode.
Carly Anderson?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and...
She hates me because I'm trying to bang her boyfriend, but...
Well, Cam is a very handsome fella.
No, me and Cam Birtcher have this, like, weird connection. I mean, we're always like... And she's always like, get away from my man, dude. And I'm like, Cam, you gonna let her talk to me that way? Cam, what the fuck?
Well, I was telling him about both of them. I was like, dude, she's actually really fucking funny. And
Very
her
funny.
boyfriend's fucking hilarious, too.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, they're cool people. Da, da, da. My point is, like, seeing all of that and then coming back to Albuquerque... It's like, oh yeah, like so all of that's out there,
right?
And there's Austin, so I can only imagine like what Denver's like, what Oklahoma's like, what Chicago could be like, what all these different places, and so I was like, yeah, like that's like being able to meet all those people, see what that life is like, a snapshot of that life, right? And then for you again, where you're at, like doing that for somebody at my level, that's how you create. Like, because I really want to get good at fucking hosting.
Yeah.
That's how you find a new host, I'd imagine. That's how you find a feature. That's how you find like these new people coming up where it's like, oh yeah, we'll check back in a year and see where they're at.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's dorky, but I like I'm starting to really like the inner workings of everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because like me and my buddy AJ were putting on shows here in town. Like we've got the Safe House is pretty much our room now,
right?
Downtown, and now we got this like a place I was telling you about up in Rio Rancho.
Yeah,
and so now that we're like curating and putting together like rosters for people, like lineups, putting like lineups for people, putting on shows, how to make it unique. Like, because my whole mindset with it is like, how do I turn this show and how do I separate it as much as possible from an open mic?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Make it professional.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
How do I make it professional?
Exactly. Yeah. And so being able to do that, put lineups together and like seeing how things are done in Austin and how all that works. And it's like, it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
It was fucking motivating as shit. It was, man. It was fucking cool.
That's cool, man.
Because of how big Austin is, one thing I'm curious about, and even like in Oklahoma, how easy is it to put on a show there?
It's as simple as you want it to be, but also like to put on a good show, it's hard, right? I mean, the biggest thing about a show is marketing. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you start putting on shows, it then becomes a business, right? Because now you have to be like, hey, because what do you need? You need a room, equipment, and an audience, and then comics, right? You need those four things to have a show.
Yeah.
Right, and audience is like is you can do without.
Did that?
You know,
because if there's no audience, you're like, how big is the lineup of comedians, and they are sitting in the bar room.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's as simple as like going to, you know, let's say you have like a local watering hole you go to every week or whatever, and you start knowing the bartenders and the staff, and all it takes is like, hey, like, can I talk to a manager? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you talk to a manager, like, hey, I'm a local comic in town. I would like to put on a I think weekly shows aren't that good for like in places like Allison's show is bi-monthly, right? And it does great. Now it's just, I mean, it does fucking great every show because it's, you know, it's bi-monthly, but also Allison puts in a lot of work into it, right? So that's the other thing too, is like you make a promise, like, hey, let's do this show. And then the venue's like, okay, cool. Well, usually it's like, we'll do a trial run. And then what you do is, and then you just go out and promote as much as possible, right? You get flyers, you get, you know, a professional flyer made, and then you start putting, I mean, some dudes like Zach's really good about like promotion for his shows. Allison's, you know, Zach's very good about promotions for his shows, like on the ground work, like putting up flyers, like telling people about it, stuff like that. And he's also, you know, good at the online stuff. That's where like Allison's bread and butter is she's very savvy with that shit. She's like, okay, cool. I'm going to buy targeted ads for this many days leading up to the show. And I'm going to put a ticket link here and I'm going to make it as easy as possible. And once you have that one show and you show like, hey, you know, this bar, I brought in 90 patrons, right? Better than, you know, and if you can do 90 patrons on a Wednesday when that bar would maybe have 20
at most,
right? That's great. Now the bar's happy because they're selling booze. You know what I mean? And you're happy because you have a venue that has an audience. And then from there, you create a rapport. And you're like, hey, I'd like to do this. You know, like, would you like to do this again? And a lot of them are like, yeah, this, you know, the least work you can let the venue do, the better your show is going to, the more they'll probably want you back. If you rely on the venue for promotion, they're going to be like, oh, we're promoting the shit out of this, and it's just not really worth our time.
Yeah, I was going to say, in your opinion, so obviously you want to take the work off the venue.
Yes.
But if you're putting a show together, is there more onus on the producer or on the people that are on the show to help promote it?
It's in my opinion, promotion is on the venue and the producer, depending on the venue. If it's like the Creek in the Cave, and they're not putting your flyer and stuff on their website, and they're not running ads for your stuff on their stuff, then you're like, dude, what are you guys doing? Right? You guys aren't helping me out with this at all. All these promotions is on me, right? I mean, it doesn't take. I mean, the Creek in the Cave has a big following on Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, all it takes is for them to be like, hey, this Tuesday we have this show, right?
Yeah.
And then it's on you. But like, having comics promote, in my opinion, isn't like the best thing, because it's like, hey, dude, I want you to, you know, I've done shows where guys are like, hey, can you make a post about it? And I'm like, dude, why? Nobody's gonna come from my post. You know what I mean? Like, this is your show. Like, this is, you know.
So let me rephrase that then. Should comedians be promoting shows, like local shows they're on?
Oh yeah, I think it's like, it's in a comedian's interest to do it, but it's not their responsibility to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like changing a tire for somebody, right? You see somebody on the side of the road, you don't have to do that, but if you got the time and you got the know-how,
But I mean, you're not riding their car home though.
Right, but
them getting their vehicle home's not going to benefit your life at all.
Yeah, but it's helpful. You know what I mean? But that's the thing too, is like, and it depends on your following. Like, if you have 300 followers, posting about that show probably isn't going to do a whole lot about it.
Right.
But if you have 10,000 or 5,000, or a lot of followers, yeah, but dude, just put it on your story. Put it on your story and say, hey, hit me up for tickets.
Yeah.
That's like, in my opinion, that's like the least a comic should do, is be like, hey, like, because usually, you'll have a group chat. In that group chat, you'd be like, all right, guys, here's the flyer. Promote. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then you just put on your flyer, put on your, hey, guys, this.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
More of like the sharing the post, putting on their stories.
Oh, yeah. I mean, doing stuff like, that stuff's so easy. It's so, there's literally a button you press that says share to your story.
Yes. And
you just share to your story, right? Hey, guys, I'm here this Saturday. Hit me up for tickets. Hit me up for information. And that's it. You don't have to go out and make a video about it.
Right.
But at the same time, you shouldn't be berated if you don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it does get frustrating when I put on shows and like nobody that I have booked for the show, especially when they're getting paid for it. doesn't share the shit, it just get a little frustrating.
Sure, it does. Yeah,
but then because like just how my brain works, I don't know if this is correct or not, but it's like, are you not like happy to be on the show, or you're not cool with it?
Oh, you think you're better than me?
Well, it's just curiosity,
right?
You know, it's not necessarily labeling anybody anything, it's just curiosity of like.
No, absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I'm saying like, you know, as a comic, as a person doing this show, you should be grateful for the time, and you should, in my opinion, you should at least put it on your story, right? Yeah. You know, you don't have to put it on like your feed, but put it on your story, you know, and make a couple story posts about it, whatever. Yeah. It takes nothing to do that.
Yeah.
But if you like forget, or you're like busy or whatever, you have some shit going on, and the promoter's like, "Hey, why don't you share the story?"
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, you're like, "What do you? I don't. I just didn't. I'm sorry. I've got a lot of shit going on." But I think it. You know, it's definitely the promoter's responsibility to promote the show,
right?
But it's also the comic's duty to, you know, to do it. And, you know, you can derelict duty all day. You know, you can choose not to do it. But, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of, and it's kind of situational based, too. You know, if I'm at a comedy club in a town that I've never been, like, the show in Flagstaff, I was like, I don't fucking know anybody in Flagstaff. What the fuck's this post going to do?
Right.
I made one anyway, and everyone's like, oh, Flagstaff, cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's cold. Like, I snowboard there sometimes. I'm like,
right. So yeah, we'll see you when you get back to Austin, when you get back to Oklahoma, New Mexico.
Like, oh, cool, yeah. But I mean, yeah, for the you know, but if it's a local show, then promote it, whatever. Yeah. Tell people you're gonna do it. I need to get better at promoting on Facebook too, because that's where like, I mean, a lot of people still use. I don't use Facebook a whole lot. I use it for marketplace and shit, but for the most part, it's like. I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, and I found that Facebook events help a bit too.
Facebook events do help a little bit. And, I mean, all that shit. You know, paid ads on Instagram help. Fucking, you know, whatever. Flyers help. This is fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix this guy. He's all fucked up, by the way. Perfect.
It's it's just very interesting getting into the business side of it, and it's just like fuck.
Yeah. I think that's how I know I want to do this forever, is like the business side. Yeah, it sucks, but it doesn't ever seem like too much work.
Well, it's not a burden. It's just a slight annoyance.
Yeah, it's like
and on the level of annoyances to have in life, if that's your annoyance, life is pretty good.
Like the level of comedian I'm at is I'm at the level where I can hit people up and get on shows. Like I just hit a guy up for a guest spot for a feature spot in Tulsa at the beginning of next month. And I know this dude's a good comic, and he was like, "Oh, I'm co-headlining. We already have a feature, but come in for a guest spot." And I'm at that level where I can hit people up and do it, but they're not hitting me up, right? I have to hit them up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come on, and do it," you know?
Yeah.
So
that's gotta feel good though.
It does feel good
because it's earned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And it's not just like because you're not doing it from a place of like, hey, I can ask. It's like, no, I love doing this thing.
Yeah.
I happen to be quite good at it.
Right.
I would like to go do this show, and then you have the ability to go do it. That's fucking dope.
It's fun. It's fun, dude. It's cool. But it is funny. Like that's the level of like, which is fun. It was cool to me because the level after this is where like headliners are hitting you up, and they're like, "Hey, dude, I've heard a lot about you." Or, "Oh man, I caught your set here. Oh, you should come. I know you're in Oklahoma City. I'm gonna be there. Through there in a month or two. You should feature for me or host for me," which doesn't happen a whole lot, but sometimes it does, and you're like, "Oh, cool." You know what I mean? Or, you get them with a club and they're like, "Hey, you're going to feature for so-and-so." And you're like, "Oh, nice." And you know so-and-so. And then you do a show with them and it reminds them, they're like, "Oh, yeah, dude, you're pretty..." Like, that's how I got on with Trey. Was like, I featured for him in Arkansas and I did really good for him. And I helped him out. I took pictures for him and stuff like that at the meet and greet. And then he was like, "Ah, you're an Oklahoma guy, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm there next week. You want to feature for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." And that's how our friendship kind of came about. But yeah, dude, this is a weird business, man. I'm happy to be in it, but it's a lot.
What is, as much as you can see it, what does the future look like?
Bleak. We're getting a new president in about 15 days, so maybe. No, the future looks pretty good for me, man. I don't know. I say that not knowing anything about my future. Preferably in a year, I would like to be on the road, headlining or doing small runs, or even being attached to a bigger headliner would be a cool thing. But I mean, for the most part, I don't know, And I think being this far into comedy, I stopped having expectations. And when you stop having expectations for stuff, your life gets way better. I stopped expecting sets. I stopped expecting time. I stopped expecting to go do.
I was gonna say, what expectations were you putting in front of yourself?
Yeah, like you the second you start thinking you're owed shit in this business,
that's an issue.
Yeah, and
I think that's different than expectations, because that's the definition of expecting things. But like thinking you're owed something comes from a weird place of hubris.
Right.
Expectations is like, okay, well, by year blank, I would like to be here. By year blank, I want to be here.
I'm talking like going to a club and expecting to get a spot or stuff like that, right? Or like going or hitting up a headliner and be like, well, fuck, I don't know why I'm not featuring for him, you know? Like, it's like, oh, I'll hit so-and-so up and I'll be definitely featuring for him. I stopped doing that a long time ago because it just crushes your soul. So I'm just like, oh, fuck, you know, I'll hit up so-and-so and if I can feature for him, cool. If I can't, whatever, you know? Just having almost a bit of stoicism to it of like, you know, I can't control this, so I might as well fucking do it. But the best thing I can do is put my best foot forward or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. If I'm still doing kind of what I'm doing now in a year, I'm fine with that. You know, still doing, you know, pretty good shows, going on the road a little bit, you know, having good sets. I'm happy with it. But, you know, in a year, I'm headlining somewhere. Cool. You know, if not, I'm not. So,
well, it's important to be at peace with it. I think you use the right word, stoicism.
Yeah.
You know, being able to accept what is.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to hold on too much to things you can't control.
Right.
And then when good things come, attribute it to your hard work. And if you believe in one, the higher power, and just go from there.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, and that kind of helped me. Having that mentality helped me a lot with like turning down that mothership set. You know, I was like, you know what? Cam believes in me enough to do this show. So I don't think that's going to change in the future. Do
you think you would, it's silly to think like this, but just for argument's sake.
No, I don't think I would have done good.
No. You would have done very well.
I'll tell you why after this, but no, I don't think I would have done very good.
But let's say you were 2 or 3 years into this. Mm-hmm. Would you have made that same decision?
No, I would have immediately texted my girlfriend, "Hey, can't make it. I'm so sorry. I just got this. How cool is that though, right?" Or whatever. And then I would have. And my girlfriend could ask me that same question. She goes, you know, she's like, you know, what would that look like if. Whatever, and I was like, well, I would have went to Oklahoma. I would have done that show. Immediately after that show, I would have turned around and left back to Austin, slept in my truck, done that show that night, and then drove back to Oklahoma City, and then drove to Durango the next day. Like that's what it would have looked like. But it's also that wouldn't have been worth it.
Right.
Like none of that would have been fucking.
I think being able to make that hard decision is a sign of maturity.
Sign of something, dude.
I think it is, man.
Maybe, I don't know, but.
Because again, turning down like that shiny gold coin, it could be tough.
Yeah, and that's what I had to tell myself is like, dude, this is, if I got this opportunity, it's not like this is never gonna happen again. It's not like, hey, I need a feature for this 6-month-long tour. Yeah. And by the way, I'm Bill Burr. You know, it's not like that at all. It's, you know, it's a good buddy of mine hit me up for a show in Austin at a club that's new and big and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, and I really had to have a conversation with myself like, hey, dude, this is just a fucking just another set.
It's healthy.
Yeah, and I had to tell myself that I was like, Rogan's not gonna see me and fucking change, you know, make me a goddamn regular right away. Yeah. Or anything like that. Or he probably wouldn't even see me at all. He probably wouldn't even fucking be. He's probably elk hunting somewhere. I don't fucking know. But that's just, you know, you gotta have that mentality about it sometimes. So.
Well, it's very cool to see everything that you're doing, man.
Thanks, man.
Seriously. And then again, I can't understand I have not seen someone blow the roof off that place like you did last night in a long time.
Oh, really?
And that's not throwing shade at anybody.
Sure.
That's just the fucking truth. Like I think not a long time. I think the last time I saw that something to that level was probably Josh about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Fournier went in there and just off the top of his head, just maybe it was all planned. Maybe who the fuck knows with that guy?
Yeah, Josh is real strange like that.
But he just lit that place up. And so it's cool to watch people go in. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's possible in here.
Oh yeah.
It's possible.
It's possible in any room. Yeah. To go in there and fucking me and Zach talked about this. One thing you have to do but with like crowds like that are like kind of meek and little, you have to kind of like, hey, this is okay. You can laugh. Yeah. It's fine. You know, so it started out not great. That fucking first joke I did. I heard you guys laugh at the table.
I liked it.
And I was like, Yeah, they got them.
Yeah,
Cool.
I thought that was funny.
That was fun. That was fun.
But this is gonna come out probably in like 3-ish weeks.
That's fine.
Do you have any shows at the end of November?
No.
Towards the end of November? Okay.
No.
Yeah. Well, where can everyone find you on social media and then your podcast you have running?
Yeah, so it's just Maverick _McWilliams on Instagram, Maverick McWilliams and everything. And then check out the Drooling Banjos. It's pretty fun, dude.
I think it's fucking hilarious.
It's a fun podcast.
I'll get stoned as fuck because you guys drop an episode like 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that's usually when I'm up working.
Yeah. So
I try to go to bed at like 1-ish. And so I'll just get stoned as shit, put that on and just laugh.
It's silly, dude. There's some of the shit that we put out. The next episode we put out, I'm not a part of it. I was doing shit and they had to have a guest called a guest banjo. But the guy that's on it is named Michael Ridley, and he's he's a killer. So funny, so great roast comic, great stand up, just in general. And so, the pod's in good hands on that one. So, yeah, but no, check them all out. Thank you for having me, dude.
Dude, thank you for coming back.
Dude, of course.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a fucking pleasure. Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.